Every day, a truth is revealed.
A statue made of gold, silver, bronze, iron, and clay. A 10,600-year-old dream that predicted every world empire with surgical precision. Babylon, Persia, Greece, Rome, all fell exactly as prophesied. But the final piece, the feet of iron mixed with clay.
That's happening right now, and most people have absolutely no idea what it means.
Or how close we're to the end.
Daniel wasn't some random prophet, but a Jewish noble kidnapped from Jerusalem and dragged to Babylon around 605 BC, losing everything: home, family, freedom, status. But here's what makes his story insane. The guy lived to see his own prophecies come true, watched Babylon fall, watched Persia rise, and served kings from two completely different empires. His visions weren't vague nonsense, but detailed, specific, surgical. Empires named centuries before they existed, dates predicted to the year, events mapped out with terrifying accuracy. Which means the stuff that hasn't happened yet, yeah, that's coming too, and we need to pay attention. King Nebuchadnezzar, the most powerful man alive, had a dream so vivid it woke him in a cold sweat. But he couldn't remember a single detail, though he knew it mattered. So he did what absolute monarchs do, demanded his wise men tell him both the dream and the interpretation, an impossible task with death sentence for failure. Only Daniel, plugged into God's frequency, could deliver. The dream was a massive statue with head of pure gold, chest and arms of silver, belly and thighs of bronze, legs of iron, and feet made of iron mixed with clay. Then a stone cut without human hands smashes the feet. The whole thing crumbles to dust. Wind carries it away with nothing left. But the stone grows into a mountain that fills the entire earth. Daniel's interpretation was breathtaking. The golden head was Babylon itself, the greatest empire of its time, with unmatched wealth and power. The silver chest and arms represented Medo-Persia, which conquered Babylon in 539 BC exactly as predicted. The bronze belly and thighs symbolized Greece under Alexander the Great, who swept across the known world with unprecedented speed, crushed Persia, and built a massive empire. The iron legs represented Rome, the military machine that dominated for centuries and crushed everything in its path with unmatched brutality. But check this out. The feet and toes of iron mixed with clay are partly strong, partly brittle, with attempts to unite through alliances and treaties, but failing to truly stick together because iron doesn't mix with clay. Sound familiar? International bodies, economic blocs, global treaties, nations trying to forge unity, but constantly fracturing due to nationalism, cultural clashes, and ideological divides. That's the iron and clay, that's today. That's the world we're living in right now, with all its fractured attempts at global unity. And then the stone, not a human kingdom, not a political movement, but the kingdom of God established by divine power that will strike during this final fragmented era. It will utterly destroy all previous kingdoms, will fill the whole earth, eternal and indestructible, bringing an end to human governments forever. This prophecy delivered 2,600 years ago laid out human history from Babylon to the end, and we're living in the final stage right now. Daniel chapter 7 shows the same empires, but from God's perspective, and he sees them as predatory beasts rising from chaos rather than glorious monuments. First beast, lion with eagle's wings representing Babylon, majestic but brutal, wings plucked, made to stand like a man, its swift conquest ended. Second beast, lopsided bear with 3 ribs in its mouth representing Medo-Persia, the bear raised on one side showing Persia's dominance over Media, 3 ribs symbolizing 3 major conquests with voracious appetite for expansion. Third beast, leopard, with 4 wings and 4 heads representing Greece under Alexander, 4 wings showing insane speed of conquest, sweeping the known world in a decade. 4 heads showing the empire split into 4 kingdoms after his death divided among his generals. But the 4th beast, that's where Daniel freaks out. dreadful and terrifying, exceedingly strong, great iron teeth devoured everything, trampled what remained. This is Rome, but with 10 horns. And then another horn, a little horn with eyes like a man and mouth speaking great boasts, and as it grew, it ripped out 3 of the first horns. This is the Antichrist, a political leader rising among a confederation of 10 nations, likely from the sphere of the old Roman Empire, and his characteristics are chilling. Speaks blasphemies against God, persecutes believers, attempts to change times and laws. The saints will be in his power for a time times and half a time. 3.5 years, 1,160 days, 42 months, the Great Tribulation. But the vision doesn't end there, because Daniel sees the Ancient of Days, God himself, taking his throne with thousands upon thousands surrounding him. Judgment is set, books opened, the beast is judged, dominion taken away and destroyed. Then something glorious. One like the Son of Man, coming with the clouds of heaven, approaching the Ancient of Days, receiving dominion, glory, and a kingdom where all peoples, nations, and languages will serve him in a dominion that is everlasting, never passes away, never destroyed. This is Jesus Christ, the Messiah, receiving his eternal kingdom. Enlil. Chapter 8 zooms in on Persia and Greece with laser precision, then introduces another little horn figure with specific details. Daniel sees a ram with 2 horns by a river, where one horn is longer, having grown up later, and the ram charged west, north, south, with nothing able to stand before it. That's Medo-Persia, with the longer horn representing Persia's dominance. Then a male goat comes from the west, flying across the earth without touching the ground, with a prominent horn between its eyes, charges the ram with fury, breaks its horns and tramples it. This is Alexander the Great with his meteoric rise and swift conquest of Persia, unparalleled in history. But at the height of power, the prominent horn breaks, and 4 horns sprout toward the 4 winds, representing Alexander's empire divided among 4 generals after his death. From one of these 4, a little horn emerges and grows toward the south, east, and the glorious land, which is Israel. This is Antiochus IV Epiphanes, who ruled 175–164 BC, a historical figure, but also a preview of the future Antichrist, with striking similarities. He persecuted Jews, attempted to Hellenize them, magnified himself against God, stopped the daily sacrifices in the temple, and desecrated it by sacrificing a pig on the altar and erecting an altar to Zeus, the abomination of desolation. This lasted 2,300 evenings and mornings, then the temple was cleansed by the Maccabees. But here's the kicker. Jesus referenced this event in Matthew 24:15, said the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel would happen again with future fulfillment, where the Antichrist will stop sacrifices in a rebuilt temple, will desecrate it, will set himself up as God. History rhymes, patterns repeat. What Antiochus did was a shadow, and what's coming is the real deal that will shake the entire world. Daniel. Chapter 9 contains the most precise prophetic timeline in the entire Bible, the master clock of prophecy that unlocks everything else. Daniel's praying, understands from Jeremiah that the 70 years of Babylonian captivity are ending, confessing sin and interceding for his people when Angel Gabriel shows up and drops this bombshell. 70 weeks are determined for your people and your holy city. Weeks here means weeks of years, so 70 sets of 7 years equals 490 years total, specifically for Israel and Jerusalem with a divine purpose. Purpose? To finish transgression, end sin, make reconciliation, bring everlasting righteousness, seal up vision and prophecy, and anoint the most holy. Gabriel breaks it into 3 segments. Segment 1 is 7 weeks, 49 years, from the decree to rebuild Jerusalem until Messiah the Prince. That's the decree by Artaxerxes in 445 BC, where rebuilding happened despite opposition exactly as predicted. Segment 2 is 62 weeks, 434 years, after which Messiah will be cut off, but not for himself. Do the math, 7 weeks plus 62 weeks, 69 weeks, which is 483 prophetic years from 445 BC to approximately 32 to 33 AD. The exact time of Jesus Christ's crucifixion, where cut off means his death and not for himself, means he died for our sins as atonement. Gabriel adds, "The people of the prince who is to come will destroy the city and the sanctuary. which happened in 70 AD when Romans destroyed Jerusalem and the temple exactly as prophesied. The prince who is to come? That's the Antichrist from the Roman lineage, and segment 3 is 1 week, 7 years, which is where it gets critical. Here's where it gets critical. There's a gap between the 69th and 70th week, because after Messiah was cut off and the temple destroyed, the prophetic clock for Israel paused. We're in that gap now during the church age, where God's focus shifted from national Israel to the global church. And the 70th week, the final 7 years, is the Great Tribulation. Daniel 9:27 says, "He will confirm a covenant with many for 1 week, but in the middle of the week he will bring an end to sacrifice and offering. On the wing of abominations will be one who makes desolate." He is the Antichrist who will make a peace treaty likely with Israel for 7 years, probably involves a rebuilt temple where sacrifices resume. But halfway through, after 3.5 years, he'll break the covenant, stop the sacrifices, and set up the abomination of desolation. That's when all hell breaks loose in the worst 3.5 years in human history, the Great Tribulation. This ends with the second coming of Christ, judgment on the Antichrist, and establishment of Christ's millennial kingdom. Daniel 9 is breathtaking because it predicted Christ's first coming to the year and lays out the exact sequence for his second coming. This isn't coincidence, but divine precision. Daniel 11 and 12 deliver the grand finale of the prophecies with incredible detail that has stunned scholars for centuries. Chapter 11 is insanely detailed, traces the history of Persia, then the wars between Ptolemaic Egypt, king of the south, and Seleucid Syria, king of the north, after Alexander's empire split. It describes alliances, betrayals, marriages for power, devastating wars, all accurately fulfilled in history with precision so high that critics claimed it must have been written after the events. But the evidence for early authorship is solid, proving this is divine foresight. Within this, Antiochus Epiphanes appears again as the contemptible person who obtains the kingdom by intrigue, describes his cunning, his invasion of Egypt, his actions against the Holy Covenant, and how he defiles the temple, stops sacrifices, and places the abomination of desolation, all historically fulfilled. But then, around verse 36, the language shifts from historical detail to broader ominous descriptions. The king who does as he pleases, exalts himself above every god, speaks blasphemies against the God of gods. This is the ultimate Antichrist beyond Antiochus, with global ambitions, blasphemous pride, and setting himself up as ultimate authority over all nations. The text describes his military campaigns in the last days with movements against the king of the south and north, enters the glorious land which is Israel, conquers many, but news from the east and north troubles him, so he pitches his tents between the seas and the holy mountain. But he comes to his end with no one to help. This is the Antichrist's final push into the Middle East, his ultimate defeat, and divine judgment falling upon him. Chapter 12 focuses on the time of the end, saying, "Michael will stand up, there will be a time of trouble such as never was, your people will be delivered, everyone written in the book." The Great Tribulation brings unprecedented distress, but deliverance for God's people who remain faithful through the darkest hour of human history. Then, the resurrection. Many who sleep in the dust will awake, some to everlasting life, some to shame and everlasting contempt. Literal resurrection with clear distinction between righteous and wicked. Daniel's told to seal the words until the time of the end. Many will run to and fro and knowledge will increase, meaning full understanding reserved for the final generation. And look around at global communication, instant information, unprecedented travel. We're that generation. The angel gives timing. A time, times, and half a time, 3.5 years. Then mentions 1,290 days and 1,335 days, showing precise timing of the Antichrist's reign and the blessing for those who endure to the end. So what does this mean for us living in these prophetic times right now? First, God is sovereign over all human affairs. No empire, no dictator, no conspiracy can stop his plan because he raises kings, he deposes them, he sets times and seasons, and this should bring comfort in chaos. Second, be vigilant and watchful. We're warned about a blasphemous persecuting power. So watch for ideologies that elevate human authority above divine, that seek to change laws and times, that persecute truth holders, and understanding the Antichrist's characteristics helps us discern without fear. Third, stay faithful no matter what. Daniel lived unwavering faith in a pagan empire. His prophecies detail unprecedented trouble ahead. And for those facing the ultimate fulfillment, Daniel's example and God's promise of deliverance are powerful encouragement. Fourth, Christ's return is imminent based on the signs, the sequence of empires rising and falling, the prophetic timeline, Antichrist characteristics all point to one conclusion. The Son of Man receives an everlasting kingdom, and this should inspire urgency, not panic, but purposeful living and preparation. Fifth, resurrection hope changes everything. Our earthly struggles, even death, aren't the end because there's a glorious future for the righteous, awakening to everlasting life, and this shifts focus from temporary to eternal, from man's fleeting kingdoms to God's enduring kingdom. The iron and clay feet are forming right before our eyes. The stage is set for the prince who is to come. The prophetic clock is ticking toward that final week. But Daniel's ultimate message: God wins. His kingdom crushes all others, fills the earth, and lasts forever. Daniel's prophecies aren't ancient history, but a roadmap, a divine GPS from Babylon to the second coming that we must understand. The accuracy of past fulfillments, Babylon, Persia, Greece, Rome, the exact year of Christ's crucifixion, gives us absolute confidence in future fulfillments that are coming. The Antichrist will rise, the covenant will be made, the abomination will be set up, the tribulation will happen, and Christ will return in glory. We're living in the gap between the 69th and 70th week, the iron and clay stage, the final fragmented kingdom before the stone strikes and crushes everything. So understanding Daniel isn't optional but essential for navigating these times, for discernment, for hope. And if this opened your eyes to something you'd never seen, drop a comment. Share it with someone who needs to understand the times. Subscribe for more deep dives into biblical prophecy, because the King is coming and his kingdom is eternal.